now it's time for the Dave, John, and Carcat memo in the Fruity Rumpus Asshole Factory. So basically, John and Dave show up and they're like, hey, what the fuck are you doing here? And Carcat bursts in with his usual long-winded shenanigans before finally getting to the point about how he's pissed that Dave and John seem to be getting especially close with their respective troll girls. And Dave tries to deflect by saying that Carcat's just jealous because Carcat wants to get with Terezi. And then Carcat sort of brings up the quadrants, but then John doesn't know what the fuck the quadrants are, so Carcat basically just tells him to shut the fuck up and not worry about it. Carcat tells John that Friska's totally into him, and John's like, wait, really? I didn't pick up on that. Because, you know what? John is just a lovable scamp. Basically, it comes down to it, like, Dave and John are like, I don't know, I feel like there's nothing weird about us talking to them, romantic or not. Why do you care? John's a little more like, oh my gosh, I've never liked a girl before. How should I feel? Blah, blah, blah. And Dave's like, whatever, man. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, if I start macking on some troll girl, that's my business. Anyway, basically, Carcat gets to the real point, which is that Carcat's working on a plan wherein eventually, presumably, all the trolls and humans would meet face to face, and he doesn't want it to be weird, but yeah. So he also drops the URL with a shipping chart between the humans, wherein he ships John with Rose and Dave with Jade. So cool. And basically John's response is, wow, I have to marry Rose? So then Carcat's like, alright, cool, I've helped you figure out your stupid romance shit, goodbye, and bans them. And then we go to past Carcat, who's sleeping, and we see him standing in the lab. And I'm not going to go through the entire game, but basically this is a little flash game where you walk around and talk to everyone. Games has got this horn pile here, and people are sleeping on it like a bed. Eridan's being an asshole. Terezi's being Terezi. But basically, Carcat goes around telling everyone they're not allowed to go to sleep, but he won't explain why. We're going to learn why later. Pfeffery seems to know what's up, if I remember right. Yeah, so Pfeffery seems to know what's going on, sort of what Carcat's on about. But Carcat's basically like, hey, if you're a Prospect dreamer, don't go the fuck to sleep. Prospect got blown up, and you'll see some crazy shit if you go to sleep, and you do not want to see that crazy shit. So he just goes around telling everyone that. And then at some point you get to be Terezi, and Terezi goes on an adventure through the meteor. And I think that's about it for this. We'll come back to this later. These guys later, though. I'm not going to really go over each... It's basically just them all talking to each other, really. It's just kind of like nice little fluff, I guess. Anyway, we go to John, who is installing Spurb, and now he's got the client installed, I don't remember which. Anyway, you can see Jade now. Jade's asleep. And then John turns around when he notices something and gets a pie to the face that sends him careening off of his house. But his Nana catches him with a floating bed. So it's all good. Nothing bad actually happened. And then John has a conversation with his Nana, who, if you remember, is also his sprite. And at this point, John is now aware that his Nana is also, like, technically his mom and daughter at the same time. Anyway, they have a little conversation. Nana gives him this little necklace which apparently she can, like, use to appear wherever he is. So that's cool. And then she offers him cookies, but it's not cookies, it's little Chinese finger traps. I think that's what those are. And then we get a Rose who gets a message from Aerith, and also we get our first look at this new art style, which is going to be a thing for a little while. Hussey decided to experiment with new art styles, so you'll notice the art style is going to change at least one or two more times throughout Act 5, Act 2. Anyway, Aerith messages Rose and basically starts giving her shit because he's like, magic isn't real, you stupid bitch. Stop going around trying to act like a witch or whatever. And Rose is like, I'm sorry, what? Can I help you? Also, I'm shooting magic out of my fucking knitting needles, so I think magic is real. And then Eridan's like, nope, fuck you. And she's like, okay, whatever, fuck off. And then we kind of get the gist throughout that if you're paying close attention, you might pick up that Eridan's doing his usual shit. He's actually trying to start some black romance with Rose because none of the trolls will date him. Actually, I think he just admits it. Then at the end, Rose is like, all right, you want to learn magic? And then she uses her power to blow up his computer. So, get fucked, Aerith. Anyway, then she gets a message from Aradia, who is trying to get Rose to stop tearing their session apart because it's going to lead to some really shitty consequences. Rose does not care. And then she switches the conversation to the Green Sun, and Aradia says, like, listen, there's no way you can find it. It's literally, you're literally never going to be able to find the Green Sun. You're never going to be able to use its powers to help you out. Like, just stop. Everything you're doing is bad. You need to stop. And then Rose is basically like, well, isn't it going to happen anyway? Like, isn't time kind of like a straight line here? Like, each timeline is predetermined. And then Aradia kind of goes off and on a tangent trying to be random and crazy, wherein she like throws in a bunch of random fucking syllables or not syllables, characters and stuff. And she starts ribbiting, and then she kind of mentions that she's a robot, and she keeps trying to be really random, and then she leaves, and Rose is like, wait, you were actually kind of like, I was actually vaguely interested in what you were talking about. But Aradia leaves anyway. And then we see Aradia bot sitting at her computer. And we see Eridan's exploded computer in the background. And then Rose talks to Nepeta. And then we learn that Nepeta's actually been contacting Rose so that Nepeta can talk to Jasper Sprite through Rose's computer. Because apparently Jasper Sprite and Nepeta are friends now. And Rose is basically like, hey, Jaspers, I'm going to go off to do some shit. I probably won't see you again. And tells Jaspers if Jasper sees Rose's mom to tell her hi. Have a nice little conversation, a farewell conversation. And then we go to Dave getting hassled by some chumps. First off, he starts getting trolled by Gamzee, who basically is attempting to troll Dave because Karkat was telling everyone to troll the humans. And Dave's like, wait a minute, I remember you. You were like my favorite troll in like a sort of ironic way because you came in and you started doing like shitty raps and stuff. And then Dave starts talking about all the stuff that Gamzee mentioned in the other conversation. Gamzee's like, yeah, I don't remember any of that. Like, and then Dave's like, well, it probably didn't happen yet. Gamzee's like, I can't contemplate this time shit. I don't know what the fuck's going on, dude. And then Dave starts talking about how Gamzee's all into Fago and shit, and Dave has made the connection to Insane Clown Posse and actually sends Gamzee the music video for one of Insane Clown Posse's songs. And Gamzee watches it and is pissed at this blasphemy. And that's the first time we see Gamzee utter any sort of, or let out any sort of emotion other than nonplussed. So neat. Then we see Dave is standing in front of some sick ass sword, and then he gets pestered by, well, trolled by Equius, who's like, yeah, I don't understand you guys. Like, you guys don't have like different blood colors. Like, how do you determine who's the best? And Dave convinces him that they determine who's the best by having rap-offs, and then Dave tries to get him to do a rap-off with him, and Dave lets off on a long rap. And then Equius does a short little one, and Dave has fun with that because he likes having shitty rap-offs with people. And Dave really doesn't know what the fuck Equius is talking about, but Equius goes off on another rap, which really he considers like poetry, which it's basically the same thing since we're just reading it here. It's not like we're listening to them actually do it. And he starts doing a poem about fucking how sexy he thinks muscle beasts are, which, if you remember, they're basically like centaurs and shit like that. The big animals that run around during the day on Alternia. So yeah. And then Dave's like, wait a minute, maybe you just might be the worst troll, because I'm realizing that this is probably not ironic in the slightest. And then Dave starts trying to pull out the sword, and he's telling Equius he can't get it to budge. Equius is like, it looks like a legendary weapon. Dave's like, it looks like a legendary piece of shit. And then Dave can't pull it out. Equius starts giving him shit for not being able to do it, and also mentions Dave's bro, who Equius seems to look up to in some way as being really strong. Dave uses his sword to cut a nearby pillar. The pillar falls over, and he's trying to like basically knock the sword out of the pedestal, and then the sword breaks. So good job, Dave. And Equius is getting off on all this, so, as he does with most things. And we see him wiping down with what appears to be like a Con Air poster or something. Odd. But Dave gets the broken Callid Folk, which is just the Welsh, I think, name for Excalibur. So he basically gets a broken Excalibur. Good job, Dave. And then he gets pestered by Terezi, as usual, who has a new comic, which on screen for your viewing pleasure. It's fucking A+, I gotta say. And they just kind of have a little conversation about how the conversation Dave had previously with Carcat, and he's like, so are you just like, are you one, are you like into me, and two, are you only into me because like you're trying to get at Vriska? And Terezi gets a little offended, and she's like, okay, like, look, like, kinda, but also like I genuinely like talking to you. And then she kind of goes off, and Dave's like, you know what, I don't really care, like, let's just fuck it, man, who cares, let's just doing our shit. And then Terezi compares Carcat and Dave, says they're very similar, and they talk about like how they both sort of have hero complexes, wherein Carcat wants to be a hero and Dave feels like he has to be the hero in a sense, wherein Carcat thinks he's like gonna be the greatest fucking leader ever, and he's gonna rule over the remaining trolls and be all cool and shit. And Dave feels like he's obligated to like be the cool guy and like get shit done because he feels like no one else will. And yeah, and then Terezi mentions that sometime soon Dave's just gonna like pass out for no reason, so he needs to summon Dave's sprite to protect him because the monster's about to show up. So he does that. Yes, okay, we get confirmation that it is Welsh, and Dave and Sprite are like, why the fuck are Welsh things in this game? But whatever. And we also learn that Dave's current sword, Khaled's Scratch, is like a version of a sort of upgraded version of Khaled Folk, which is kind of interesting because Khaled Folk is like supposed to be like a cool legendary sword, but whatever. And that Dave Sprite in his timeline basically met with his denizen, Hephaestus. Yeah, Hephaestus. And got that shit made up real tight. And Hephaestus wants to light the forge, which is apparently Jade's volcano, which is apparently important to their quest and game. And they kind of talk about how stupid all the riddles and bullshit behind this whole quest is. And then Dave's like, all right, by the way, I'm about to pass out. I don't know why, but some shit's about to happen. Probably Rose being Rose. But yeah. So Dave thinks that he's about to pass out because Rose is going to bonk him and make him, switch from normal Dave to Dream Dave. But it's actually Frisco who makes him pass out. Though it doesn't really matter why he passes out. I think he still goes to be Dream Dave anyway. And then Dave Sprite gets ready to fucking kick some ass. And then we go over to Jack, who is examining Bro's sword, which is stuck in the disc on Dave's world. Jack pulls the sword out as a memento to his epic fight with Bro, who he's still looking for to finish the fight. And then we go to Jade, and it's time for Jade to wake up. But there's no Prospit. What happens to Jade while she's dreaming without Prospit? Well, you see, she has a silly little dream about the, whatever the fuck these things are called, squiddles? I don't even remember. They're just little squid octopus thingies, and she's having a fun time on Rainbow Road. Good shit. Oh, there's fucking, what are those, shrimp? Some shrimp coming out to play. There's not really much for me to say here. Just in a little bubble. Maybe we zoom out from the bubble. And we see Dave hovering over Durst, and he's taking his shades off. Holy fuck. And we see his red ass irises. That's right, Dave's irises are red. And then we go back to Jade's fucking Squiddles dream bubble, and shit's getting a little creepy. It's getting a little unsettling, I'm gonna be honest. I don't like it. Hey, it's Pfeffery. What's Pfeffery doing here? That's weird. She's riding a fucking seahorse. I get it. It also has a diamond on it. Whoa, hey, whoa, what the fuck's going on here? I don't like where this is going. Jade doesn't like where this is going. Pfeffery loves where this is going. Holy shit. Uh-oh. And now we just see a bunch of disturbing eldritch monstrosities as Jade floats through the void. So this is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the wacky shit you see when, Prospit or Durst gets destroyed. It ain't fun. It ain't fun at all. So yeah, I'm just gonna let you guys sit here and watch the rest of this horrifying shit. You guys can't hear the music, but it's pretty wacky here. Well, it's actually just like a like every time one of those things passes, there's like a whooshing sound, and there's like a steadily rising tone. If I remember right, I'm not actually listening right now. Yeah, so Jade being sucked into the fucking darkness of the void. She sees whatever the fuck this is. Cthulhu ass motherfuckers. Oh, hey, that's actually Pfeffery's Lucis, and then Jade wakes up and she's fucking not happy. And she's getting trolled by Pfeffery, who's like, hey, wasn't that fun? And Jade's like, no, it sucked. And Pfeffery's like, oh, come on, it was cool. And Jade's like, fuck off. Because Jade has a personality now. Crazy, am I right? Jade having a personality beyond just being happy and go lucky. Guess that's what happens when you can't see the future anymore. Anyway, Jade goes off on Pfeffery and she's like, you know what? Sorry, like I got a headache. I had a crazy fucking dream, and then whatever. And she also asks Pfeffery to stop using her typing quirk because it's hard to read. But yeah, Pfeffery reminds Jade what happened about Prospect being destroyed, and all that shit. And Jade's like, oh fuck. And then Pfeffery's like, hey, we should do that again. And Jade's like, no, I refuse to sleep ever again. And then she gets pestered by, oh no, she talks to Carcat because she was supposed to message Carcat when her robot exploded. So she does, and Carcat's like, holy fucking shit, it's Jade fucking Harley actually fucking responding to me. And she's like, okay, shut the fuck up, you're an asshole, I'm done. And she's like, and Carcat's like, wait, what? You said your robot exploded, I don't know what the fuck that means, which means that was future me. And then Carcat makes a memo for future Carcat to show up in, and then future Carcat and current Carcat start arguing, and they basically, future Carcat is like, dude, like, Jesus Christ, dude, you suck, like, stop being such a dick to her, she's actually pretty cool. And then current Carcat's like, whoa, what the fuck, do you like have a thing for Jade? That's fucking sick, dude. And Carcat's like, no, but if I did, like, it wouldn't be weird because she's cool, because Carcat's assumed her, if you couldn't tell. And they just fucking go on and on and on. And at some point Dave shows up, and Dave's like, what the fuck, dude, you were just giving me and John shit for hitting on troll girls, and now you're hitting on Jade. And then Dave gets banned, and then Jade leaves. And then at the end of the conversation, current Carcat's like, you know what, maybe I was wrong about Jade, she's cooler than I thought. And future Carcat's like, shut the fuck up, I hate you past me, you suck. And then they leave, and Jade looks at her little colorful reminders, but they don't mean anything anymore. And she saves one. She has a blue one on her finger, and she's like, what does this mean? And she remembers it, John, because blue is connected to John. So she starts running back to her house, and then we go back to John, who is currently Jade's server player, who is deploying shit in Jade's place, and Beck is there sleeping. So John's basically fucking Jade shit up by throwing all of her like cool stuff all over the place, and Jade's not happy about that. But she's happy that John's not dead, because the last thing she saw was an unconscious Dream John falling from the moons of Prospect towards Skya. So many names and words to keep up with. Also, John talks about how he had the ring, but then he lost it when he woke up, and blah blah blah. And then we go to Jack, who is flying on John's planet now, and finds Bro. Jack throws Bro his sword, and it looks like they're about to finish their fight. We go back to John, who's just, doing all the shit that we saw Rose do for him. John drops a globe on the Cruxtruder to open it up, and it almost hits Jade in the head, but Beck wakes up and teleports it out into space, as Beck do. John's talking about prototyping, and they're considering prototyping Jade's grandpa, but she's a little hesitant on it. And then they're also talking about how maybe they should put in really useless shit so that they don't make the enemy stronger. Anyway, we go back to Bro and Jack, and then Dave Sprite shows up to help Bro out with the fight. That's pretty cool. It's kind of like Dave and Bro are teaming up. Yada yada. More John being incompetent at this game. He almost drops the snake into the prototype, and he makes a huge mess. Somehow nothing gets tossed into the prototyping thing. Kernel. Sprite. Luckily. You gotta be careful, John. You don't know what you could possibly throw in there. Back to the fight with Jack. Bro is smacking Jack around with Lil Cow. Jack flies up and uses the red miles to create a bunch of fire and shit around on John's planet, which is not a good thing because you might remember that the oceans on John's planet are made of oil, and thus all of the oil on John's planet, which covers his planet like oceans and rivers, fucking just goes up in flames and starts spreading across the entire planet. And we see a really morbid sight of Rose using some sort of crystal ball that shows her John's planet, and she's using the fire coming off John's planet as a light to read her books. It's really fucked up. Think about it. John messages Rose, and she's like, "Hey, did you know your planet is on fire?" It makes a good light for reading. And basically, John's asking what he should prototype, and Rose is talking in long, overdrawn out sentences. And John's like, "TikTok, Rose, TikTok, I'm in a hurry." And Rose is kind of talking about how like none of this matters and we can't win our game and blah blah blah. The trolls are right. And then that John will figure some shit out the next time he goes to sleep. He'll find a certain treasure, and then he's like, "Wait, what treasure?" And then Rose is like, "John, what is that sound? It seems to be a ticking noise." And John's like, "Oh fuck, you're right. I gotta go. Thanks." Jade's doing all the basic shit that we're gonna skip over because it's the stuff we saw John doing for pages and pages. Jade tries to message Dave, but she just gets knocked at, and we see that one of the crocodiles has Dave's shades on and doesn't know how to work them properly. Dave flies over to Rose's little moon on Durst, and we see her sleeping with this like black aura, which is pretty ominous. And then we see John asleep on his planet, and the Cosby top sinking into the oil, and as he wakes up, as well as his little pendant that he had that connected him to his nana. He starts messaging Jade, but she doesn't respond, and he throws his phone out into the oil, and he's like, "Wait, what the fuck? Why did I do that?" But his glasses also let him talk to people, so he starts talking to Rose again, and Rose is like, "Why were you sleeping?" And he's like, "I literally have no idea. Last thing I remember, I was helping Jade, and now I'm here." But turns out Jade's fine, but John's not, because the planet is still on fire, and that fire is spreading. John hops his way to a very tiny little island, but John's got to figure out a way to save himself because he doesn't have a way out of here. And basically, John's like, "Wow, Rose, like, you're using a crystal ball and you're talking about all this black magic shit. Like, I feel like you're kind of turning evil. So I'm gonna come over to your planet later, and I'm gonna help you not be evil anymore and break the spooky spell put on you by your nefarious shadowy masters," as he says. And then they sort of throw some jabs at each other. And then now it's time that Rose mentions a thing called the tumor, which is apparently the reason that the session won't work, because there's apparently this thing growing inside of Skaya that's fucked everything up. And I don't know if she mentions it here, but I'm just gonna say it's a bomb that's set to go off at after 24 hours after the game starts, which is why their session's doomed to fail. And now it's time for John and Karkat to talk, and I believe this is their second conversation from Karkat's perspective. So this is right after he accidentally confessed his feelings to John and got reverse trolled by John's silly John just being so genuine that he accidentally trolls people. He tries to get help from Karkat, but Karkat, has only talked to John so far, so he's completely useless. And John, despite his current situation, is kind of excited because now John's getting close to that first conversation that we saw earlier. And Karkat goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And then while that's happening, and John is close to being burned alive. We get to see Jade doing her thing again. We see there's a gigantic meteor headed straight for Jade's island. It's not only gonna destroy her island, but everything within hundreds, if not thousands of miles. Well, we'll say hundreds, if not at the very least. We get to see what happened before John fell. He was about to put a doll in. Vriska put him to sleep because Vriska's a bitch. Beck teleported all that stupid shit out, and then Beck prototyped himself. What are the consequences of that, you may ask? Well, let's just say that's a big oopsie. Why did Beck prototype himself? Well, Beck prototyped himself to make himself even stronger so that he can go destroy the meteor that's heading for Jade. Jade hits the fucking Beck pinata hanging from her tree with the butt of her gun, which by breaking her entry item, she then enters the game. There's a giant fucking explosion caused by Beck blowing up the meteor. Pieces of the meteor go flying all across Earth, and Earth is fucked. That's basically it right there. And we see Dave fighting Jack. She hasn't broken it yet. That's right. She's falling, and she just takes a shot, just a blind shot. Beck teleports the bullet to hit the pinata, and now she teleports into her server and does not die from the meteor. But now that Beck has been prototyped, Jack gets new powers. New Beck powers. He also grows dog ears and a doggy snout. It'd be adorable if he wasn't an unkillable god-like entity now. And we see that his red flames turn green, and if you remember, just when everything got fucked up for the trolls, there was a flash of green flame. And we see that it was, in fact, Jack, who henceforth we shall refer to as Beck Noir, who did so. Aradibot saves everybody by throwing him into a teleporter. They wake up on the meteor. Karkat looks up to see Beck Noir destroy Prospit. And that's what happened to Karkat when he was asleep. Prospit go boom. Jack big strong now. Jack be the big bad now. Oops. By saving Jade, Beck kind of fucked everything up. But it's okay, because Jade is in her world now, and it's snowing. Yay! Nuclear winter. And we see her falling through the air slowly. And I believe that it ends. Yep, that's it. Jade made it in. And we see that Bro and Dave Sprite were both killed by Beck Noir. And Karkat tells, while we were away, Karkat was going on a long tirade about all the shitty things that John did. And we get to see part of that with Karkat saying, "You made it unbeatable boss is what you did. The idiot you called the Jade human went ahead and prototyped her freak of a Lucis while you decided to take a nap for some reason, rather than doing what a leader is supposed to do and stop her from being so fucking That's straight quote. Sorry. I probably shouldn't have said that anyway. I'll bleep that out. Or something. Your version of Jack, who you were somehow dumb enough to entrust with the Queen's Ring, became essentially indestructible. He then went on a rampage through your pointless session, which hilariously was already a lost cause even before this happened. Blah, blah, blah. Beck Noir is really fucking strong. He also takes the Lil Cow as a memento of his fight with Bro and Dave Sprite. And we learn that Beck Noir, of course, apparently got to the troll session. But how? Well, we see the Wayward Questant, I believe is her name. The White Queen, after she's exiled, finds a teleporter. And she plugs something into it that makes it, turn back on. Yada yada. It brings back together the Beck-shaped what the fuck were these things called? I don't know. The little pod. It's a Beck-shaped pod. And yeah. And Carcat's just going on and on and on and on about how they fucked everything up. That's cool. WV pulls out the ring and starts making some connections and remembers that right as he found when he found the ring, he actually met John way back when, and we get a flashback, or I guess it's not even a flashback because Homestuck just, shit just moves all over the timeline, to when John first met WV, and WV was defending his treasure, and then John disappeared because he woke up to find out from Rose that he was on fire, and then we see WV goes to the terminal and starts talking to John, just basically asks what's going on. Then he starts pestering John and just throwing a bunch of shit into the terminal, which, as we know, for John, it just pops up as a voice in his head that's constantly just talking to him. And WV's like, this isn't getting anywhere, so he turns caps lock back on. But by turning caps lock back on, for some reason it locks down his little pod, and he can't turn it back off. And there's a funny little quip from the narrator as WV tries to turn caps lock off. It says, you see what happens when you forget your manners. And then we go back to John's planet, which is covered in green fire now, and it is circling in on John as we speak. John may be moments from dying. And then he gets a message from who else but Vriska, and she's basically like, hey, do the windy thing. Oh, actually, I don't think she says that. I think WV's about to. But basically, she's like, hey, you look like you're in trouble, but I believe in you. You can do this because you're the hero. Do it. Be the hero, John. And then also, John gets her to admit that she watched Con Air and she actually liked it. And John's like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And Vriska's like, listen. Oh, she also admits that she put him to sleep. And he gets mad, but then she's like, well, technically, I had to do that because that's what happens on the Alpha timeline. And if I didn't do that, then you guys would have just been fucked anyway. So, but I can see forward on your timeline, and I know that you get out of this. So, yeah. So by involving myself in your life and becoming this fucking puppeteer and doing all these crazy things, I've actually saved you, John. And John's a little annoyed by this because he doesn't like the whole idea of everything being like predetermined. It's kind of annoying for him. And basically the conversation ends with, all right, John, well, I'll talk to you later after you figure this out. And then WV's messaging John more, and he's like, hey, look, I'm sorry for turning caps lock on, but you got to do the windy thing. And John doesn't know what the windy thing is. And WV starts spamming shit into his head, like, do the windy thing, make the breeze happen, you can't die yet, you are a hero, yada yada. And then John gets so pissed off from WV doing that John does the windy thing, and he creates a giant tornado, and it sucks up all the clouds and shit on his planet and puts out the flames.